This is John with the latest on the NFL AFC playoff race as we go into Week 7. Calculations are from my free tool at playoffcomputer.appspot.com. Check that out to add drama to your own fantasy football league. FYI, there is an extended podcast version of this on Spotify and other places. The AFC has completely flipped the tables on the NFC from the first couple of weeks of the season. AFC teams went 6-1 this past week in interconference games. That means that many of the teams that won in the conference didn't exactly gain a lot over their counterparts, but the few teams that lost took big hits to their chances. It also means the number of wins most likely needed to get a wild card spot is rising. Chiefs and Dolphins continue to lead the way. Chiefs have slightly higher chances to make the playoffs due to their better odds of winning a division. The Jaguars were the big winner for the week with a win over the Colts. They gained 11 points and are now up to around a 2 out of 3 chance to make the playoffs. The Ravens and Bills are the other teams at 4-2. Among that group, the Bills have the worst records that might come into play as a standings tiebreaker, and thus their playoff odds are a bit below the others. The Steelers had a bye, and with everyone else in the division winning, their odds suffered a bit. The Browns joining them at 3-2, but among the two, the Steelers beat the Browns earlier and have a better conference record, so their odds are currently quite a bit better. There is a squadron at 3-3. The Colts were the big loser of the week, dropping an astounding 17 points with that loss to the Jaguars and falling out of the division lead. They, along with the Texans, do have better records that might come into play over the rest of the 3-3 clubs, so their odds are slightly higher than the others. The Bengals have the worst tiebreaker records among this group, so their odds lag behind, but I'm sure they're just happy to be at 3-3 and back in the thick of it. The Chargers, being the one AFC team that lost to an NFC one, are now a step behind the masses, losing 13 points and down to a 29% chance. The Titans are fading out of the picture with the Patriots and Broncos well past that point. But some consolation, they, along with every team, still control their own destiny. Looking a little closer at the divisions, starting with the East, Dolphins still in charge. Their only loss is against their closest competitor for the division, the Bills, who got back on track with a win against the Giants. The computer estimate for most likely number of wins needed to take the division is 11. As mentioned, the wins most likely needed for the wild card is rising, now around 10 to 11. Team rankings has the Bills and Dolphins fighting to the bitter end, with the Jets tying for a wild card spot. Thanks to them for letting me use their data. If it comes down to head-to-head tiebreakers and such, the Dolphins have a loss against the Bills, who themselves have a loss against the Jets. In the AFC North, Ravens took a slight lead over the Steelers with a win while the Steelers rested. The Browns are right there, and the Bengals are back to 500, so they can't be counted out. 11 wins is the current guess for the number needed to take the division. Team rankings has the Ravens hitting that, with the Browns right behind and taking a wild card, and the Steelers being right behind them and going into a tiebreaker. Some potential relevant head-to-head considerations. Almost every Ravens game has been with teams currently in the thick of the playoff race. Wins against the Browns, Bengals, and Texans. Losses to the Steelers and Colts. The Browns have a win over the Bengals, but losses to the Steelers and Ravens. The Steelers have those victories over the Browns and Ravens, along with one against the Raiders, but a loss to the Texans. The Bengals, with that 0-3 conference record, hadn't beaten anybody that would matter in a tiebreaker yet. For the AFC South, Jaguars now have a slight lead over the Colts and Texans. Most importantly for them, they secured the first division head-to-head tiebreaker in the NFL with their second win over the Colts for the year. Colts and Texans right in the middle of at least the wild card race. Titans dropping a couple games back. Looks like wins needed for the division will be either 10 or 11, same as the wild card. Team rankings has the Jaguars taking it with 10, Texans right behind, and the Colts right behind them. As for relevant wins and losses, besides the 2 wins over the Colts, the Jaguars have 1 over the Bills with losses to the Texans and Chiefs. The Colts have wins over the Texans and Ravens if needed. The Texans have the win over the Jaguars, loss to the Colts, win over the Steelers, loss to the Ravens. This, at least from the Stat Geek perspective, is one of the more entertaining division races to pay attention to with all those varied head-to-head records. Finally, the AFC West. The Chiefs still have a comfortable lead, giving them close to a 2 out of 3 chance to win the division. Raiders now the surprise second-place team. Chargers, with that Monday night loss, are going to need to do some turnaround things. They'll have the Chiefs next to show they deserve to be in the discussion. Guess for wins needed to take the division is 10 or 11 here as well. Team rankings has the Chiefs winning easily, Chargers being in the wild card picture. Games that might come into play later. The Raiders don't have any wins against a quality AFC team, but do have losses against the Chargers, Bills, and Steelers that might prove costly. Chargers just with that 1 conference win over the Raiders. There are just 3 intra-conference games for Week 7. Looking at which teams the non-combatants should root for to better their chances, the Browns versus the Colts is the most interesting one. Bills, Jets, Jaguars, and Texans among the contenders that would benefit the most from a Browns win. All others would benefit from a Colts win. Every team, besides Buffalo of course, would have their odds improve with a Patriots upset. And the big showdown, most teams would gain with the Chiefs erasing the Chargers from current wildcard discussion, although the other AFC West teams would actually benefit with a Chargers win. That's it for now. Again, my site is playoffcomputer.appspot.com. Please check it out if you play in or in particular commish a fantasy league or want to support this mission in Stat Geekery. Feel free to send comments, questions, or suggestions. Enjoy your day.